Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel if you are new. In today's video, I thought it would be a good idea to show you how I make those granny squares. We will begin by making a slip knot. So wrap the yarn around 2 fingers and then bring up the loose tail in between to form a loop and attach this loop to your crochet hook like so. And then we will begin by making 5 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we will be inserting our crochet hook into the chain that is the furthest away from us. So chain 1. So go ahead and insert it in there. Now you'll see we have sort of a little semicircle, and now you want to yarn over and pull it back through that chain. You'll have 2 loops on your crochet hook. So as you can see, we ended up with a little ring, and we will be working our double crochets in here. So we will begin by chaining 3. 1, 2, 3. This will act as our first double crochet for the height. And we will be working in clusters of 3 double crochets. So since we already have chain 3, we need to do 2 more double crochets into the center of this ring. So in here. And this gives us our first cluster of 3 double crochets. Now we will move on to the next cluster, and in order to do that we will chain 2, which will act as our corner. In order to achieve this, we have to chain 2, these 2, and then as you can see, cluster of 3 double crochets and a cluster of 3 double crochets here, 2 chains. So that's what we will be doing. Chain 2, 1, 2. And now we will be working into the center of the ring again. And this time we will be making 3 double crochets, because previously, remember, we chained 3 that acted as our double crochet. Another thing that I will be doing here is creating my double crochets over the tail so that it can get tucked into here and I don't have to worry about it so much later, but you can also leave it and just attach it later as you normally would. Now we are going to do 3 double crochets into the center of the ring. So here we have our second cluster of double crochets. So now we will chain 2 for the corner, 1, 2, and start working on our third cluster of 3 double crochets. We'll have 4 in total. Okay, so we are now ready to work on our last cluster. So now, as you can tell, our granny square is not really looking like a square so much, and that is because we need to join it together to the first chain 3 that we made. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to count up to the 3rd chain. So 1, 2, 3. We will push our crochet hook through the 3rd chain like so, and we will slip stitch into this loop over here. So yarn over, pull through the first loop and pull through the second loop. And now we've completed the center of our granny square, and it looks like this. Okay, so let's move on to row 2. Again, we will begin by chaining 3 for our first double crochet. So 1, 2, 3. For the rest of the project, we will be working into these spaces, and each corner will contain 6 double crochets But because we started in the middle here and we chain 3, we will be doing 2 more double crochets, and then we will complete this corner once we've gone around. Don't worry if it's a bit confusing now, it will make sense once you've done it once or twice. You'll get used to it and it will be very easy to do in the future. So we have our first double crochet, which is chain 3, and now we're going to do 2 more double crochets. And we've got the first 3 cluster. Now we're going to skip 3 and work into this space. So in order to make up for this space, we are going to chain 1, and then we will be doing 3 double crochets into this space. So just like before, for a corner we want to chain another 2. That is just so we can turn the corner, and then we are going to do 3 more double crochets into the same space that we did these 3. So here we have our first full corner of the row. Now we will move on to this corner, but in order to get there we need to chain 1, and then we are going to start by doing 3 double crochets into this space. Chain 2, so 1 and 2, and then 3 more double crochets in the same space. Okay, so now you have 2 corners. Let's move on to the third one. Chain 1, then do 3 double crochets into this space. We have our first 3 double crochet cluster, chain 2 for the corner, 1, 2, and then do 3 more double crochets in the same space. Alright, so we are approaching our 4th corner. As you can remember from when we started this granny square, we've already done 1 cluster of 3 double crochets into this space. So we'll only need to do 1 more cluster. So let's chain 1 and do 3 double crochets into this space. And now we want to chain 2 for turning the corner. 1, 2. And we will be working a slip stitch into the 3rd chain. So in here, push your hook through the 3rd chain, yarn over and pull through, then pull that loop through this loop. And we've completed our 2nd row, and this is what our granny square looks like so far. So let's continue with our 3rd row. So we will chain 3, which will act as our first double crochet for the corner. 1, 2, and 3. And just like before, we'll be working into this corner underneath the 3 chains, and we will be doing 2 double crochets to complete our cluster of 3. Okay, so now we have this new space that we haven't worked into before because we only had the corners. So you have a center space in addition to the corners. Now the center space is slightly different in that we won't be working 2 clusters of 3 double crochets. We would only be doing 1 cluster of 3 double crochets in here. So let's get started with that. Chain 1, then work 3 double crochets into the space. We will now move on to the corner, and just like before, we will chain 1, then do 3 double crochets, then we will chain 2 to turn the corner, and then we will do 3 more double crochets in the same space. Alright, so now we have another middle gap, so we will chain 1 and do a cluster of 3 double crochets in here. So we are now on our 3rd corner, so we have to chain 1 and do 3 double crochets into this space, then chain 2 to turn the corner, Then do 3 more double crochets into the same space. Okay, so again we have to work into this space in the middle, so we will chain 1, then do 3 double crochets into this space. Now we can move on to the corner, so chain 1, do 3 double crochets, then chain 2 to turn the corner, then work 3 more double crochets in the same space. So now we're going to move on to the middle space, chain 1, and do 3 double crochets in here. And we are coming to the end of our third row, so we already have 3 double crochets into this corner, so we will only need to do 1 cluster of 3 double crochets. So let's go ahead and chain 1, then work 3 double crochets in here, then we will chain 2 to turn this corner, and we will be working a slip stitch for the third chain just like before. So 1, 2, 3, push your hook through this chain, yarn over and pull it back, then pull that loop through this loop. And this is what our granny square looks like so far. And now we've completed our granny square. So leave a bit of a tail and cut off your working yarn. Then with your crochet hook, pull this tail through, but not too tight. Now you will need a darning needle or a tapestry needle to work our tails in. Now when I started, I already worked this tail in under some stitches, but just for the purpose of this video, I will show you how to do it if you haven't done that in the beginning. So attach your needle to this tail, and then what you want to do is you want to go under these loops. So insert your needle under a few of these loops and pull through, but not too tightly. And then you want to go back as well, but skip 1 loop so you don't undo the work you've just done, and pull it back. If you want it to be really secure, you can go ahead and insert it under more loops. But as you can see, my tail is quite short, so I'm having a hard time doing that. And because mine is already quite secure, I will cut this bit off. And now we'll be working with this tail. So again, attach it to your needle. Okay, we've attached our needle, and now we are ready to work our yarn through. So again, I will work under a few loops without pulling too tightly, because you want to keep the shape of the square in the corner. Just trying to stay behind yarn that can be seen at the front, so I don't want to have it going behind those spaces. So we will go in here underneath these loops. Then go back up from the second loop, not the first one, so I'm not undoing my stitch. Then go in through here. And again, go back up, just to make sure it's secure. Now we'll cut this tail off. And we've completed our granny square. Here it is. If you followed along, I hope you had fun with this project. Granny squares are quite useful. You can do a lot of things with them, such as blankets or even clothes patterns. So it's quite a useful little pattern to know. Don't worry if it doesn't come out looking very nice at first. The more you practice it, the better it will look. And when you get used to this pattern, it will become very easy to make lots of these really fast. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel for more videos like this one. If you followed along and made a granny square or a project using this tutorial and you posted somewhere on social media, please do tag me. My accounts are in the description below, and I will see you next time with more videos like this one.